Hi, everybody. Welcome today. I am joined by Bonnie Straight. We are here at the Republic of Texas in your embassy, basically, right?
Yes.
There is quite the movement that has been happening. We're a little tired. We've been at a conference for several days for, I don't know, like 12 hours a day, it feels like, bringing the Republic back together.
Right.
Talk a little bit about the peace flag behind us and what you're doing and what's happening with the movement of restoring the Republic.
Oh boy, there's a lot.
There's a lot.
The peace flag, not everybody knows, this is the peace flag, the one that we've always known and seen hanging on every flagpole is a war flag. Who knew? I never knew that we had been honoring war this whole time. We are entitled to live in peace, which is where our happiness and our joy is, and there's a lot of fraud about creation of war, and there's a lot of warmongers that profit from keeping us at war. That's a whole bloody trail that we don't necessarily want to go down. We're here at the Republic of Texas because the Republic of Texas is the real de jure government, the only one that Texas has that's not incorporated. We do not profit from our wrongdoing like the state of Texas that pretends to be real government. It's not. I can give you real live examples of that, but we don't have time to go into all those stories because I know we have limited time.
Well, you're the general counsel for the Republic of Texas.
Yes, I am.
So this is standing up the de jure government, unlike, from what I'm understanding, we're all learning the process, and Bonnie's been doing this a very long time, is standing back up the real true republic, not these corporation, the fiction corporation,
right,
and taking back our status. Talk a little bit about how people, when they come into the knowledge that they can change their status, what does it mean to change your status as a state national?
A few people know that we have been in a slave system through that 14th Amendment that we thought was a liberty. It's actually a corporate fiction that was structured in the Lincoln era under Civil War power. They were able to come in and do a corporate overlay on all of our nation states and incorporate them all. Well, when they did that, there's a maxim of law that in order to have a contract, there must be like kinds. So they knew that a corporation cannot interface with individual people without a contract. So they had to make us corporations too, which is why they started to capitalize all of our names. So if you notice on your original birth certificate, a lot of us, it comes out with our name upper and lowercase. Well, within 2 weeks, we get a brand new birth certificate that's in an all capital name. That's a bond. It's a corporation. In the federal code book, they call it a vessel. It is a trust. If you look at your driver's license, if you have one, it's that all capital name. If you have gotten an esteemed degree from some university, it's got an all capital name on it.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot of computer programs, even in courts, they will only use all capital font on everything that has to do with names that you're typing in. So a lot of times we wind up using the all capital name, not knowing it has a totally different meaning to it than the upper and lowercase name. So we, the upper lowercase name, known as the living men and women, that's where our rights are, where the all capital name is a corporation, and corporations don't have rights, they have benefits and privileges. So it's very interesting to that whole concept of knowing that I'm not that corporation name that was created by the state.
Fraudulently, without us knowing.
Without us knowing. This
Right.
is how our rights have been stripped away. If you wonder why you go to court and your rights are not honored, not respected, no due process exists, searches and seizures are done every day without a warrant, all day long, CPS is taking kids, no due process, it's because they're treating you as a corporation. When you're not, you're a living man and woman created in the image of God. There's a maxim of law, that which one creates, one controls. So God is the one that created us as living beings of energy, created in His image to be a perfect reflection of Him. He's the one who controls us, right? That's maxim of law. That which one creates, one controls. God created me. I'm controlled by Him. Well, the state, really, I see it as a total usurpation of God's authority, because when the state is saying things like in a wedding, a pastor says, this day I would announce to you, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, by the power invested in me and by the state of Texas. Do you see the fraud?
It's a corporation.
The state of Texas doesn't make marriage. That came out of the Garden of Eden. It came out of Adam and Eve in the garden. God is the one who created marriage. Does the state have any power to invest anything in a pastor when there's supposed to be a separation of church and state anyway? Why do we know that? Because we have put that separation in this nation specifically because there was so much religious oppression and tyranny, compelled worship, forced worship burned at the stake for not obeying certain doctrines of it, certain very large churches. I don't want to offend anybody by naming them, like the Catholic Church. Oops, did I say that?
Yeah.
I don't want to get in trouble with my Catholic friends.
They know.
We love them. It's
Yes.
a system that has been harsh and austere and has a long history of that. But the church and state should always stay separate because there is a risk that there will be compelled worship, and even the book of Revelations talks about forced worship, not being able to buy or sell unless you have the mark of the beast. It's found in Revelations 13. Very interesting.
We've been going through a lot of that with people not being able to go places or open their businesses. We started to actually feel and taste what that might look like through all the COVID issues.
And we would have never guessed a few years ago that you would have the state tell you what to wear a diaper on your face. That the state would practice medicine and tell you to go get a shot that you know you don't need because you're not sick. And the state would tell you to wear this and wear that and do this and do that and stand this feet apart. Well, the reality is that mask wearing and 6 feet apart is actually used in satanic rituals.
That was mind-blowing when I heard somebody say that.
Yeah. And it is part of their religious practice when they're doing satanic rituals.
Well, I have felt for a long time, like when I started looking into, like, why does this mortarboard, I learned that it was a mortarboard on the hat and the cap and gown, and that it was some sort of like Masonic ritual when you go graduate. I found that out. I was like, oh, you're a tool now. I'm like, oh my goodness. So they're like laughing at us as we get degrees. Mm-hmm. So there's these things that kind of started to wake me up along the way. And one of those things was Child Protective Services.
Right.
And talk a little bit about some of the, what you've encountered and where the wins that you've been having against CPS.
God has been really good to us. We have gone just in the last month where we have stopped two, and I know that's not enough. It never is, but it takes so much time to stop the fraud that they're doing through CPS. So we had a lady that her kid had a seizure at school. And the child has a seizure condition, and the doctors can't do anything about it. She's taken the kid to the hospital. They can't do anything about it. CPS wanted to get involved. The school called CPS on the mother because they wanted to whisk the child off to ER. Well, when in the past they've gone to ER, I guess I'm making this story way too long. CPS wanted to contract with her. Well, when you know that all governments have been incorporated, and these pretend to be government agencies such as CPS, WHO, CDC,
IRS, they're all incorporated.
They're all incorporated, and they cannot do business with you unless you have a contract with them. Well, I know that, but it's a matter of me trying to educate not only the CPS agent that doesn't know it, the law enforcement officers don't know that. And the people, we just assume that they're government, you know? A lot of times you'll have judges compel parents to go and contract with CPS. They can't do that. Judges cannot force you into a contract. That's not power that we've given to them to force us to do anything. There's magic words of saying, I don't consent. This lady had contacted us. I stood in the gap. I spoke to law enforcement, tried to educate them. They were willful and intentional in their conduct. They would not hear reason. They would not hear that there's limited power. The CPS is a for-profit corporation. I had to step in and help this lady create documents for her that she could use in her court case, and we got the case dismissed. And thank God she never got the CPS agents never got their clutches on the children. Because what we're seeing continually is that once they do that, the kids are gone forever. The kids are put in homes where they are knowingly molesting the children, that they are satanically ritually abused. They call it SRA, satanic ritual abuse. It's a thing. It happens.
Talk about how many kids go missing off of the rosters. We've heard that even on mainstream news. How many kids are going missing through Child Protective Services a year, do you guess?
When I looked at the numbers back in 2017, it was 700,000 to 800,000 a year all over the nation. In all the nation states combined.
That went
almost
missing,
a million
or
a
that
year.
were taken from homes?
And it could have been either, because I didn't do a breakdown, but those were children that were removed from their home. And I have seen a federal court case in the Southern District Federal Court in 2019 because there was a cause of action brought against CPS, and the good judge in the Southern District stopped what they were doing and rendered a judgment, and the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals out of Louisiana, which is the appellate court for the Southern District Federal Court, overturned some of the rulings of the judge that actually rendered a very good ruling. Because I was so excited that this was a federal judge. I'm like, yay, somebody's standing up for the people. And then the Fifth Circuit overturned a lot, which to me, they're supposed to be protecting the people.
Right.
They're supposed to also be an Article III court. And I'm like, oh man, this is, because when I read, and there were thousands of pages of documents filed in this court case. I didn't read all those, but I read like a 36-page opinion that was quite lengthy that the federal court had ruled on. And one of the terms that really struck out at me in this judge's opinion was that these children had been traumatized that were in CPS care beyond that of war vets from Vietnam.
Whoa.
They were traumatized that much. So it's
Unreal.
severely abused. Now, I know I'm not going to be popular putting this video out, and that's okay. I'm not here to be popular. I'm here to tell the truth. The judges that are doing this stuff through CPS know that the kids are going to be traumatized. They know that when a child is traumatized and grows up into a grown-up, that they are going to have drug and alcohol dependency issues, because a lot of times those soul wounds that are created when a child is young, that person, that young man or woman will turn to drugs and alcohol to Band-Aid.
Yeah.
They're hurting.
Right.
And they will turn to drugs and alcohol for relief. And so there's a very strong propensity that they will be in and out of the criminal justice system. And right now, the way that the justice system exists under Admiralty Maritime Law is that they profit from getting those young men and women addicted to drugs so they can put them in the jails. I mean, there's so much profit in it. There's monetizing of securities. They're tapping into their Sustakay trust account.
But explain that really quickly with beginner's eyes. Somebody watching this says, what do you mean they're tapping into a trust fund?
Yeah.
When you get a case, explain that process where, so by which now there's a case of a course of action, and there's a case, and now there's a CUSIP number, and that we all actually have these trust funds because we were bonded when they turned us into a corporation when we were born. Explain that process a little bit.
Okay, so when there's a cause of action created in a court, and it can be two neighbors having a controversy over a fence line boundary that's 6 inches on somebody else's property, and so a neighbor sues a neighbor. That CUSIP number, it's usually a 9-digit number, the judge will take it and to the cause number, add a CUSIP number. It'll wind up being sold to the federal courts. Did you know that that's the middleman? Sorry to be so... Again, I'm not going to be popular after putting these facts out. They will monetize it as a debt. They will attach it to a CUSIP. They will attach the CUSIP to a ticker symbol and a bond, and it's traded on the bond market. So it's monetizing, it's rolling, and there is a trust that we all hold. That's a whole separate animal. It came out of the 1600s. It's linked to the IMF. When we had back in the 1933, done a lot of things to stop our money system and to go with the IMF and
The Federal Reserve and all that gets going.
all those great things that,
Yeah, but people don't know that they were turned into a corporation and that they are, that they're literally being traded on the bond market, and that there's a trust fund that is tapped into every time that we go into court.
Right.
And there's so much to know and so much to talk about.
But the children being traumatized, here's what's important to know, is that it sets the courts up for future fodder for the criminal justice system, where they make an absolute fortune draining the trust, millions of dollars. Over a misdemeanor, they can make millions. And even a third-degree felony, which is a low felony, a first degree would be a high felony, it's millions of dollars.
And who knew that the courts, when I found out that the court actually had a Dun and Bradstreet number and was a private corporation, I was like,
so does the state of Texas.
Right.
Tells you it's not real government.
Right. It's not real. It's a fiction corporation with the name.
It's profiting from the wrongdoing of their agents. And what I have seen is I filed complaints. The Texas Commission on Judicial Conduct is not an oversight for the judges. What they do is they are a cover-up agency for the crimes that the judges are doing in the courts. I've seen it myself because I've seen some outrageous things, and the Texas Commission on Judicial Conduct will say, oh, well, we don't find anything wrong with it, what they've done. And I mean just outrageous denial of due process, complete tyranny, complete extortion, complete fraud.
Collusion. And so these are the reasons why you, as counsel general, you have, you're playing a role. There's many others that participate in the Republic of Texas. A lot of people don't even know that this exists.
Right.
The word is getting out faster and faster. Now, how many millions of people have now corrected their status? They have sent in an article of repudiation. They've renounced their citizenship, not to the United States, but the corporation, taking themselves out of, talk about how they've taken themselves out of that and how many people you think it is.
So it's called U.S. citizen, which is just it's been, we were raised believing that, oh, we're prestigious, that's elite, we're special, we have all these special benefits, perks and privileges, blah, blah, blah. It's really, you're signing up to obey 1 billion codes and statutes without a paycheck, without a car allowance, without an expense account, without a 401k, and yet you have to obey, and if you don't obey, you're going to prison, or they're corporate jails.
Yeah, the private for-profit jail.
It's a very fancy, very elaborate slave system that there are bars that we are behind and we don't even know it. It's that elaborate that they could have bars right in front of us that we don't even know we have.
Right.
And that we're slaves and don't know it. So what we do is we teach people how to do an affidavit of repudiation. You're repudiating your U.S. citizenship, and you're claiming your state national status, which I'm a Texian. I was born on Texas soil, still on Texas soil. And so when you do that, that's where your rights and liberties are. It's not from the U.S. Because see, the U.S., the United States is a federal corporation under 28 U.S.C. 3002, Section 15A and B.
Which
is
a
fiction.
Which is no longer, it's bankrupt and gone, and now it's called White House Inc. or something like this.
They changed the name.
They just stand another one up, dummy corporation, really
The
quick.
United States is a federal corporation.
There's so much to know, and it's really deep, and there's a lot of your conferences coming up. Where can people go to learn more on your website and then sign up for the next beginner conference?
TheTexasRepublic.com is the website that we have for the Republic of Texas, because we are the real de jure legitimate government that Texas has, the only one. We protect the people. We talk to them about their rights. We teach them and educate them about their liberties. If they want off the slave ship of the U.S. corporation, called 28 U.S.C. 3002, Section 15A and B, the United States is a federal corporation. It's right there in their codes. If you went off that slave ship and you want to stand on your liberty, on the land, on the soil, and claim your God-given rights, right? That which one creates, one controls. God made us, He controls us. You want to do that, we teach people how to do it, how to correct their status, how to stand on the soil, how to claim their God-given rights. And really, if I was to advise anyone, that is the most essential element that you can ever claim. Because we are creatures, I shouldn't use the word creature, but we are a creation of our Creator. I mean, it says that right in the Declaration of Independence. We are endowed by our Creator with these inalienable rights. When you stand on that, and you know that you don't have a contract with that corporation, they cannot rule over you. For example, when we get out on the highway and speed limit says 55 and we're going 60, how many people have gotten pulled over for going 5 miles over the speed limit? And we don't question the fact that there's no injured party, and yet it's a crime. It's called a misdemeanor. So they're going to issue you a ticket, and you're going to pay money for doing what? Harming somebody? There's no injured party. Why would you have to pay a $400 fine for going 5 miles over the speed limit? That's just an example of a slave system. And a lot of times our most difficult job is to teach law enforcement that they work for a corporation that we're not a part of.
Right.
And we love them, and they're our friends, and we would love to have them operate a legitimate government that does not enslave the people, that actually
serves them
and protects
Actually
them.
serves and protects.
We originally created. We
Right.
created a government that protects us. That's
Right.
found right in Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Bill of Rights.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much to know, and Bonnie knows a lot of it, and her husband David is amazing. So you should go online and look at David's. I like Out of Babylon. Just start there,
Yes.
and watch those. I know there's like 8 videos. I mean, it's 8 hours worth of videos, I think.
There's a David Lester Straight Telegram channel where I do post updates when we have a brand new CPS victory. I created documents where we're just setting people free from CPS slavery. I've got another one that I'm right in the thick of working on.
There's so much. We
Yes,
had common
so
law
much.
courts yesterday, watching how it all operates here in the state of Texas, or the Republic of Texas,
Yes.
and it's really exciting. And so thank you for joining me and starting just this will inspire a lot of people to go and start to dig more and say, wait a minute, what do you mean? I'm being bought and sold on the bond
I
market.
know, who knew?
Who knew? So
One additional thing. A court at common law, the facts found by a trial by jury of your peers
Yeah.
cannot be re-examined by any court in the United States. That is so powerful.
That
Our
is.
common law courts are up and running, and there was a U.S. Supreme Court decision called Ex parte Milligan, right out of the 1800s, and here's what it said, that it is unconstitutional to have a military tribunal rule in civil matters unless there are no civil courts in the land. Well, guess what? We've been going into military tribunals. And
not knowing it this whole
not
time?
knowing it.
wow.
Well, in the Republic of Texas, we've had our republic restored since the 1990s, and we are holding common law courts, and we render judgments, and we're able to enforce them in any court in the land.
Which is so exciting.
It
There's
is.
so much
It
to
is.
know. People are doing all kinds of great things. They're getting land patents, getting their
Yes.
vehicles, their kids back, getting their own life and liberty and learning, and just coming together, assembling
Yes.
themselves together, and restoring their nation states and
Yes,
in
we
a
are.
bunch of different states. So there's more to come on this, and I'm happy to be here with you in it's really the embassy here.
It is.
It's the embassy
It is.
here at the Republic of Texas. Okay, so everybody look up Bonnie Straight and look at her videos as well. I mean, she knows a lot. She's the Counsel General for the Republic of Texas, so you're going to learn a lot. All right, so thanks for joining us today, and we'll talk to you soon.
God bless you. God bless America.